Turn the mic on. Truth in the building. No filters. No politics. No apologies. Dr. Ken, let's go. We don't quit till the whole thing shake. Truth hit hard, make the whole world wait. Real talk loud when the system fade. Stay tall, even when the whole ground break. No fear, no foe, no retreat. Pressure make diamonds when the fire meet heat. All gas, no brakes. When the truth gon' speak, Dr. Ken in the booth.
Truth don't sleep.
Came from the bottom when survival was a law. Learn real quick what respect really costs. Everybody got opinions from afar, but they ain't never had to carry those scars. Built from pressure, discipline, pain. Some lose focus, some lose aim. Some sell souls just to chase that fame. I build my brick by brick, no shame. See the world get weak when they need a moment. Too many followers pretending they friends. Too many loudmouths scared to defend any real conviction when the pressure set in. But I stand on business, stand on code, stand on truth when the lies explode. Some fold up when the road gets cold. Some become legends when the story gets told. We don't quit till the whole thing shake. Truth hit hard, make the whole world wait. Real talk loud when the system fades. Stand tall, even when the whole ground breaks. No fear, no foe, no retreat.
Well, good evening and welcome. Dr. Ken Harris with you here. Dr. Ken's Truth on this Thursday, Black Book Thursday.
Truth don't sleep.
And I'm having a good time just being here and realizing that I have been so excited, and I've been talking about this book for months. I don't even know if it's been out for months. It's probably been out about 5 or 6 months. And so, first of all, it's Black Book Thursday. Today is featuring Libre Kafele. I hope I'm saying the name right. And he's an author of the book that I've been talking about, Who Pays for Development, Housing, Money, and Power in American Cities. But before we jump in, I want to say thank you to the YouTube chat. Want to say what's up. Hey, Kwanda, study hall is in full effect. Who's up in here? Sincere, Ronnie Ray Real, what's going on? SE, Lucretia, oh, you finally made it. Todd made it. All right, so good to be here. So before we get going, just want to remind you to support this podcast, drkenswag.printify.me. When you go in, you see something you like, I'm going to be adding to maybe one product a week. Maybe something like that. So as I go through, you'll, love me and support me. So moving on. I'm just excited. It's like a kid in a candy store. Every now and then you read a book, and a book answers the question that you want answered. The book answers something that you needed to know, but you never know. This book by Libre Kafele examines how the financial and institutional structures that govern American cities, like right here in Milwaukee, shape development outcomes, housing stability, economic opportunity, rather than treating displacement, housing insecurity, urban inequality, all those things, right, as isolated problems. He talks about the fact that it's predictable. Who carries the risk? And that's one of the things we're going to be talking about. Yeah, we're gonna dive into a bit about municipal markets and housing and all that other stuff. But what it comes down to is he has real life examples of how cities like New York, Chicago, Detroit, cities in New Jersey, cities in the South have done great, but all at the peril of the communities. And so I want to welcome my guest, Libre Kafele. How are you, sir?
I'm well. Thank you, Dr. Ken Harris. And I would like to vehemently thank you for the invitation to be on your platform as well. So greetings to you, Dr. Ken Harris, and also greetings to the audience.
Your book. I don't know where I heard about it. Somebody mentioned it on a podcast somewhere in passing. And usually I'll look up a book to say, hey, I wonder what that is. And your topic just threw me. You've got a master's in I'll let you explain. Just tell us a bit about your background and how you came to dive into this public forum.
Yes, understandable. As far as myself, I'm Libre Kafele, You all could call me Brother Libre. My extended name is Baruti Libre Kafele. I'm a native of Jersey City, New Jersey. I graduated with a bachelor's degree from Kane University, where I studied political science. And also, I obtained a master's degree recently from Rutgers University, where I also studied political science with an emphasis on global policy studies as well. And I had experience studying at Georgetown University for a semester and also at the American University in Cairo, Egypt. That's my educational background. And also, as it pertains to my background in regards to the subject matter of the book, which is within the genre of political economy, I worked in Jersey City Economic Housing and Development briefly. And also, I've spent close to 10 years in the real estate sector, specifically as a real estate agent, and then ascending to a real estate broker. So through the intersection of my experience occupationally speaking, and then also my experience academically studying political science in juxtaposition with my experience as a Black man or Black male in America, you see, these lived experiences in conjunction with my research is what catapulted to me writing the book Who Pays for Development, in addition to the book Capital in the City, which is in essence an extended version of the book Who Pays for Development, Housing, Money, and Power in American Cities. So that's a brief synopsis about myself.
What made you want to go down this road? What was the linchpin? What clicked? I know you're in school and you're working on your degrees in political science, and you kind of get into real estate. But what lit the fire to make you start to really dive into it?
Yes, understandably so. And that's an excellent question, Dr. Harris. What led me down this path is this. You see, I grew up in an educational-oriented household. So the thing is that it was obligatory for me to read about our history and also our culture. So I attended a lot of the protests that were going on in the New York metropolitan area and New Jersey ever since I was a youngster, due to me coming from that kind of pedigree. But also, not to mention, through my own lived experiences and also through my own travels, whether it's locally, nationally, or internationally, and even through the propaganda on the news and also within mainstream media, within different avenues, I noticed that socially and economically speaking, melanated people, Black people, or people of African descent in America were always at the bottom as it pertains to the social stratification system. So I always wondered, why was that the case? You see, so that led me to study from, instead of just individualistic analysis, I started to study from a systemic and a structural analysis, meaning how is the system structured? Meaning that if we're going to study why we're at the bottom of the system, then we need to study the actual system instead of talking about the system. So that led me to study the anatomical structures of not only the political system, but also the private system, and also how they work together to bring about the various manifestations that we see within the economy, whether we're to talk about economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, aestheticism, war, or even health. That led me to study that. So what was very pertinent was me studying economics. And according to my understanding of economics is the utilization of time and energy. But money is a tool of economics. You see, a lot of the time we talk about money, and also a lot of our thought, speech, and action is governed by money, but a lot of us don't have an understanding of what money is. And money is a medium of exchange, obviously, a store of value, which is depreciating by the day due to a phenomenon called inflation, which we'll talk about, and also a unit of account, having an accounting of things. So in essence, money is a means of credit where people exchange goods, services, ideas, tangibles or intangibles, because they have less value for what they have, and they have more value for what they covet or what they desire or for what they want. But when you have a central system that controls that money supply through inflation, because according to the laws of supply and demand, once you have an abundance of a quantity of something, that depreciates the value of that commodity. So when you have a phenomenon called inflation that occurs within the system, then what that does is that depreciates the money supply or debases the money supply. And then from there, that what makes access to money cheaper. And that's where you have interest rates. Now, one may ask the question, what is an interest rate? Because we hear interest rates a lot of the time on the news. And please walk with me, Dr. Harrison, also to the audience, because I'm going to get into the book, but I need to bring some background to.
Absolutely. Got to build a foundation.
Exactly. Thanks a lot. I appreciate you for understanding, Dr. Harris. So as it pertains to interest rate, interest is the cost of borrowing money. So when you have an abundance of money that's injected into the economy, in this case, we're talking about the United States economy, for the most part, we're going to see a minimization as it pertains to the cost of borrowing that money, because once you have a lower price, what you're doing is incentivizing more people to access or to purchase that said commodity. In this case, the commodity that we're talking about is the dollar bill. And like I said a few minutes ago, money is a tool of economics, the utilization of time and energy. So when you have a large injection into the economy, that is when the Federal Reserve, which is the central bank of the United States, writes a check to the U.S. Department of Treasury. And when they write that check, that is when the U.S. Department of Treasury, they print these dollar bills in order for the Federal Reserve to access these dollar bills to the primary dealers. Now, who are the primary dealers? The primary dealers are the various banks, your Bank of America's, your PNC banks, your JP Morgan's, your Goldman Sachs, your various financial houses. But from my research as it pertains to the Federal Reserve, of course, you have, you have your directors, and then also you have your regional branches of the Federal Reserve. And the most influential one is the New York Federal Reserve, which is 15 minutes from my residence, because I'm located in Jersey City, the New York metropolitan area. So the fact is that you have the primary dealers. They have direct access to the monies when it's injected into the economy, because what they do is they use the money that's injected into the economy, and then that's when they purchase various bonds, whether they're U.S. Treasury bonds, which are, for decades. They mature within decades, and maturation is when the bonds appreciate in the value, meaning that if you were to purchase a bond and then once it matures, that means that you'll get reimbursed the principal and then the interest on that bond. And for the sake of the discussion, the primary dealers, as aforementioned a few minutes ago, are the bankers. But from what I realized is that when I looked at the list of the primary dealers, none of the primary dealers are black, meaning that there are no black banks on the primary dealer list, meaning that they don't have direct access to money when it's injected into the economy. So for those of you all who are listening and watching, who are familiar with supply chain or who are familiar with business in general, wholesale and retail, if you have direct access to a said commodity, that means that you could purchase that commodity for a cheaper price, and then you could resell for a higher price, and then the margin in between is your profit. So in this case, the same thing is applicable for money, because since money is a tool of economics and money is the foundational tool of the said economy that we live in, the U.S. economy, if you're here in the United States, and even the global economy ever since 1973, after, when President Nixon, in essence, designated the United States dollar as good as gold. It was August 15th of 1973, if I'm not mistaken.
They removed the gold standard.
Exactly. They removed the gold standard, and also the United States dollar, became the world reserve currency, you see. Even after the Jamaica Accords of 1976 as well. That was when it was officiated with the IMF, but that gets into another discussion. So going back to the subject matter at hand, as it pertains to the money supply, the banks have direct access to the money. So they purchase a lot of these bonds, and also they do a lot of the exchanges in the primary market. These are the primary markets. So then eventually when the banks deal with the entrepreneurs or the executives, you see that is a secondary market, and that is another market where they access these dollars, but it's not for the same amount as the primary dealers. So in essence, the people that control the money supplies are the people that control the politics within the said community. So you mentioned what you read in the book as it pertains to the municipal bond market as well, because this applies to our cities as well. And this is where we get into the book, Who Pays for Development, Housing, Money, and Power in American Cities. A lot of the time, as it pertains to politics, and we're not going to touch too much on politics because I'm not advocating for any political group or any political party, any candidate. This is not what this is about.
But it plays a part in it. It plays
exactly. Economics, politics are the relationships among two or more people. That's all that politics is. We have these different fancy definitions of politics in the ivory towers and what a politician is, but all politics are the relationships among people. That's what politics is. Economics, the utilization of time and energy. So when we amalgamate the relationships among groups of people with how we use our time and energy, this is where we have the intersection of what we call political economy. And the book Who Pays for Development deals with the political economy of race and space. So as aforementioned, with the primary dealer network, there are no black banks. So if you don't have black banks having direct access to the money when it's injected into the economy, then logically speaking, what do we expect to see as it pertains to our economic homeostasis, as it pertains to us as a race?
Well, does that mean that if you go to a black bank, you're going to pay more because they get the money secondarily or even third down the line than do the primary?
Exactly.
And so it seems to me that in order, so well, let me just ask this question. Do we do ourselves a disservice by deciding to bank black, but yet not understanding that we're going to pay a higher interest rate because the bank paid a higher interest rate?
You asked a phenomenal question, by the way. You asked a phenomenal question. The reason why I would advocate for black banks, because the global economic system is a unipolar system, meaning that it's all interconnected with one another. It's all interconnected with one another. So if one wants to bank, I would advocate going to a black bank due to the fact that because at the black institutions, for the most part, they have a history and a trajectory of struggling against a lot of the inequities, the inequalities, and the injustices that have been inflicted upon us. But as you stated, it's still under a system which does not advocate for our economic advancement and our best interest, generally speaking.
So then how do we fix that?
But at least with the black bank, there's, due to the fact that the mission statement of a lot of these banks and the values of a lot of these banks are based on the common struggle and also persevering and also succeeding to the best of our abilities in the midst of these struggles, I would still go to a black bank if there's one within one's region, as it pertains to the listener, meaning that if you have access to a black bank, I would definitely advocate for it, because at least you could find a banker. If you were to present a proposal which makes sense, that banker would give you a chance. There will be a higher probability of that banker giving you a chance, more so than if you were to go to a Main Street bank. But not saying that you can't find any good and competent bankers who are willing to give you an opportunity to finance your business or to finance your property or to finance your idea or vision. You can find that in the mainstream bank, but it's a higher probability as a black person or a brother or sister of African descent that you can find that in a black bank. But one of my propositions that I will propose in the near future, which will be another book, and also something that I will work on as it pertains to the syndication of information, are alternative economies for our community, because that was one of my critiques of what happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma, close to 105 years ago after the Memorial Day massacre, meaning that when Tulsa was unfortunately victimized by domestic terrorism, there should have been other black economic ecosystems throughout the country to help fortify Tulsa, you see, in the midst of what they've experienced, meaning that there could have been more synergy, more collaborative
but isn't
efforts.
There a byproduct in the black community that we tend to only one person could do one thing at one time?
Right. That
we got one synergistic system. It's not synergistic. We got one isolated system in Tulsa. We got one isolated system in Rosewood. We got one isolated system in New York, but we can only have one. We can never have multiple going at the same time that are interconnected. There seems to be a problem in the black community.
Undeniably.
That when we get to working together, it falls apart. We work together when we decide we want development in our neighborhood. We think development is a great thing, but actually, as in here in Milwaukee, we literally had a news conference today with the mayor talking about the pothole problem that we have with Department of Public Works throughout the city, everywhere. The problem is your book explains clearly, if you could walk through, I want to do a development in a city, take a minute or so and walk through what that process is and what allows the risk to then transfer to those people in that community. And by the time the city gets to the end of it and pays off all their debt, they have little money left for infrastructure.
Exactly. You see, so usually when the development process happens, there's a real estate developer who has an idea. And of course, it would be for profitability, whether it's a commercial real estate development in the retail space, or whether it's in the mixed use residential and retail space, whether it's for multifamily, whether it's for apartment buildings or what have you. So you have a developer who has an idea, and the property, it could be privately owned, but in this case, if it's publicly owned, then that developer will submit something called a request for proposal, or RFP. You see, so when they submit a request for a proposal, that is when they have to present to the city council and also the various bureaucrats of the city how this would be beneficial for the city, how this could add job opportunities, add economic growth and also bring about tourist attractions, what have you. Anything that is considered valuable and complementary to the municipal administration, whoever the mayor is of that time. Yes.
But what's missing from that proposal?
Well, there are a lot of things missing from that proposal, you
Right.
see, because a lot of the time, well, sometimes it depends on the city. You have your community activists, and there are two concepts within the real estate space and also within the community development space: NIMBY and YIMBY, not in my backyard or yes in my backyard. So you have activists who may either advocate for this development, or you have activists who may be irrevocable and skeptical of that development. But a lot of the time, a lot of our people are skeptical of these developments because we don't reap the benefits of these developments, number one. And number two, we are the ones that indirectly pay for these developments due to displacement, because a lot of the time these developments, what they do is they change the ecosystem of that said community or of that said part of town or of that said city. And also it is the taxpayer who has to pay for these developments within these cities, which are for the most part a sizable African-American population. And how do they pay? Through taxation. And how do they pay? Through displacement. How do they pay? Through losing their homes, you see. And
now,
then from,
now, what do you mean when you say displacement?
Meaning that when there's a new development in the city that is supposed to bring a lot of job opportunities, bring a lot of attraction to the city, bring a lot of business interest to the city, then what that does is it appreciates the said property value within that said city. So when it appreciates the property value in that city, you have landlords that cause a phenomenon within real estate called forced appreciation or market appreciation, meaning that due to inflation, which is what I spoke about a few minutes ago, and also due to the new developments that are in the city, then the landlords feel incentivized to raise the rents in the city to the point
So
of
you've
which
got one on top of the other?
I'm sorry?
One on top of the other? You've got market inflation and that?
Exactly, because the real estate industry is an industry that is inseparable from the financial industry. You see, because real estate is a capital intensive sector.
Right.
You see, meaning that whatever happens as it pertains to the movement of the money and also the fluctuation of the interest rates, the vicissitudes of the interest rates, they have an effect on the property value. So once they have an effect on the property value, that plays a role in the rents, because how landlords generate their revenue, one of the means in which they generate revenue is through rental income or through something called NOI, net operating income. So they are incentivized to raise the rents on their properties. And also you have some of them that don't want to use Section 8. They want to go based on market value. So what they do is they attract the college students or the university students, workers from out of town, and also some folks from the Caucasian population who wanted to move back into areas that they left around the time of the middle part of the 20th century, because a lot of these cities like Detroit at one time had 1.8 million people, and now there's 600 to 700,000 people. And there was a predominantly white city at one time. But of course, the phenomenon that happened across the country was the Great Migration, where a lot of black folks moved from the South all the way up into...
Milwaukee is exactly the same as Detroit.
Exactly. In the same region, and then the same phenomenon in my part of the country as well. A lot of folks from the Carolinas and Georgia, Virginia moved up north, and then I'm sure in your area, a lot of folks from Mississippi, Tennessee, Alabama, Texas. Yes. Exactly. They moved up, so they followed the rail lines. You see, so as in the case of Detroit, a lot of the black population moved to places like Paradise Valley, Black Bottom, and areas like that. And then, of course, when the place is integrated, it'll be integrated temporarily, but eventually the folks are going to go to the surrounding areas. So what this book talks about is the metropolitan extraction that occurs to the point in which the city in essence does not benefit
from all the development.
Exactly. It does not benefit from all the development that occurs, but instead a lot of that wealth is extracted and it goes to the suburban areas. To the point in which the taxes are high within the cities, because the cities cannot afford to maintain a lot of the infrastructure. So the cities rely on the municipal bond market. And a lot of the time in the municipal bond market, the cities have low ratings in the municipal bond market, even though cities like Newark, New Jersey, they have done much better, and they had a grade A rating as of 2024 under Mayor Ras Baraka. So I give him credit for that. But a lot of the time it becomes very complicated and very challenging, because you could have a great rating as it pertains to the municipal bond market, but if you were to go to Main Street in any country, or Martin Luther King Boulevard in any city within the country, and you talk to the people, they're struggling, and a lot of the people are one rental payment away from getting displaced.
So the developer creates,
Yes.
they have to raise the rates and issue bonds. We won't talk about the 30 years later, you're still paying for a bond that some mayor that's long gone
Exactly.
put in place. And so now you're paying it. And so in order to have infrastructure money, in order to fix streets with potholes, you have to raise taxes. But when you raise
Exactly.
taxes, the people that are living there can't pay it. So they become displaced.
Right.
You get new people in, white suburbanites from the suburbs move back
Exactly.
into the city, and your city starts to grow. It just doesn't grow in the neighborhoods that it's supposed to.
Exactly.
Meanwhile, 30 years later, your grandchildren are still paying tax on bonds that built downtown, while the people that work downtown live in a suburb.
Exactly. You explained it very well. You explained it very well. Exactly. And you have this phenomenon all over the country. And also you have a lot of federal policies which were passed in order to help expedite this process. Meaning you have legislation that was passed close to 100 years ago, which plays a role in what's going on right now to this day in places like Milwaukee and places like Jersey City, where I'm at, Harlem, New York, Brooklyn, New York, Los Angeles, California, South Central specifically, etc. You see, the book Who Pays for Development covers this. Like, for example, the Federal Interstate Highway Act of 1956, where President Dwight E. Eisenhower signed into law that there will be various highways built in order to adapt to the automobile revolution that has occurred within this country. But with the construction of these various highways, whether we were to talk about Cleveland, Detroit, and in Baltimore, they fought against the construction of one of those highways. I think it was Interstate 70. You see, we could look into that. You see, in New Jersey, Route 280 and the various others, Route 78.
Milwaukee's got I-94,
I-94. Exactly. These highways destroyed a lot of Black communities with a lot of Black-owned businesses in order to make the commute from the suburbs for a lot of the Caucasian population into these cities' downtown sections convenient for them. So who paid for that development? And it was us that paid for that development.
We did.
And that doesn't even talk about the Housing Act of 1949, which paved the way for a concept called urban renewal, meaning more community revitalization in order to benefit the community with more jobs, more opportunities, more places to eat, more attraction for tourists that come into the city with the erection of hotels. Like, for example, in the case of Morristown, New Jersey, with the creation of the Hyatt Regency, you see, which destroyed the Black communities in the fourth ward of Morristown. You see, and we have various examples throughout the country as it pertains to this. And the name for urban renewal, according to Dr. or James Baldwin, one of our great activists, was Negro removal. That's what he coined it as. You see, so we have a lot of that. So who paid for these various developments throughout our history? It was us. Exactly. Who paid for these developments? And they say that the Black race is the broke race.
All right. So I've got some questions from the YouTube chat.
Yes, sir.
What practical steps can everybody? This is from RN Kwanda.
Yes.
What practical steps can everyday people take to protect their communities from displacement before development begins, instead of reacting after it's already too late?
Understandably so. And that's an excellent question right there. And it goes back to what I stated during the presentation a few days ago, because I spoke in Greensboro, North Carolina for the Greensboro Business League. And this is what I presented. And I presented something similar a few minutes ago as well. Going back to the definition of economics, all economics is the utilization of time and energy, meaning that we have a lot of these terms that are used to cause confusion, but we need to go towards the simplification of these terms and the foundational definition of these terms so that we can know what we're talking about and know what we're going to do as well. So in essence, if we're going to combat a lot of what is counterproductive towards our community, then we may need to get involved in the development processes within our community as well.
But isn't it pretty tough to get bonded, to get the money and get the backing and have the bank back you in order to do it?
Yes, all of that is definitely challenging. But the thing about it is that in order to get anything done, it's all about surmounting these challenges and also eradicating any barriers that may potentially occur as it pertains to this. Meaning that our story as it pertains to Black people has always been persevering, building and rebuilding as well.
But so hasn't that worked against us to a point?
Yes, it has worked against us, but we're still here. You see, we're still
absolutely.
Exactly. Like the fact that we're having this conversation is progress, from my humble opinion. And also, like the old cliche says, Rome wasn't built in a day.
That's true.
See, so as it pertains to the issue of displacement, and also as it pertains to the issue of gentrification not benefiting a lot of us, I would say that we continue to persevere as it pertains to development, and also work with Black entrepreneurs and also Black bankers who are willing to support this developmental process, because there are Black banks that exist. And also, this is something that I'm going to propose in the future, but also I'm for a parallel economy as well, because the fact of the matter is, like, going back
Have you been listening to my show? I swear you're saying the same things I've been saying for the last.
Is that so? Hey, like minds, exactly, like minds think alike. Like minds think alike. Meaning that I'm an advocate. Meaning that with me, I'm an advocate for both. I believe on fighting on both fronts. Meaning that I'm
because
for,
that way you have options. You can pick and choose which one is best for you. Absolutely.
Exactly. It adds leverage to our plight. You see, I'm for the integration and the perseverance within the mainstream economy, which has a history for not benefiting us, but through laws that are getting passed, and thanks to the great civil rights leaders like your late great Dr. Martin Luther King, your Ralph Abernathy's, your James Farmer, and your various others, they definitely played a role as it pertains to us having our rights respected to an extent, because we have a very long way to go. But at the same time, I'm also a student of people like Booker T. Washington, also people like
I'm more so on the Du Bois side.
Right. I'm a student of Du Bois as well. Like I said,
we need both. We
need all of that. Exactly. You see, because the problem with a lot of us is that we get into these ideological conflicts with one another. When I think that if we fought on all fronts, then I think that we could see ourselves economically advance from a regional level to a national level, and also to a global level. You see, I think, and I think that we need a parallel economy in juxtaposition to working with the Black banks, which are still a part of the mainstream system, because with the parallel economy, that could increase leverage as it pertains to us building our communities and also maintaining our communities. And also we need to take advantage of these community land trusts as well, because the community land trust will give us an opportunity to collectively own the land within our community. And then from there, through owning the land in our community, that will give us leverage as it pertains to what's built on the land that we own. And also it'll give us the opportunity to create first-time home buyers within our community.
And so from reading your book, who should be held accountable?
Who should be held accountable?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to be honest.
The risk being transferred over to the community and totally destroying a community, predominantly Black communities and poor communities throughout the country, because this is a phenomenon that's happened in rural white areas as well.
Undeniably.
Who do we hold accountable? At what juncture do we hold? Like, it's confusing to me.
It's a great question that you asked, by the way. With grand power comes great responsibility, and with great responsibility comes accountability.
But you and I both know. I'm sorry, you and I both know they're not gonna hold themselves accountable.
Exactly.
If I'm making hundreds of millions of dollars in development, it's easier for you to sue and I give you $1 million to go away than it is for me to be held responsible. So do we hold the elected official responsible? Do we hold the developer? Where do we put the risk and get it off of the backs of the community people?
Well, the thing about it is this: like, with great power comes great responsibility. So as it pertains to who to hold accountable, you have to hold the people in power accountable, from the banking sector all the way to the developer sector, because you have the bankers who are the creditors, and then you have the debtors, who are the developers.
But the only way I can do that is to take my money from them and give it to a Black bank.
Right, exactly. But please let me continue. Exactly. So those, and these are the people, as aforementioned, from the banking industry and also the debtors, who are responsible for influencing the politicians and also playing a role with who's in office on the municipal level and also on the state level and also on the national level. But at the same time, one needs to be accountable for what they know, and from being accountable for what you know, one needs to look in the mirror, meaning that if one studies the economic system, if one studies the political system, and one has the tools in order to build in the midst of a lot of the adversities that are occurring.
Okay.
So meaning that, yes.
So is that to a point victim shaming though? I mean,
I wouldn't say
that when like we're going with the adage, if you know better, you do better.
I wouldn't say that is victim shaming because we've been victim shamed for 400 plus years. But the
Facts.
reality of the situation is that in order to better one's situation, one needs to deal with the reality, and also one needs to take the truth into high consideration.
All right.
And the truth is, excuse my language, a hard pill to swallow a lot of the time. So
Mhm.
the thing about it is that one taking the truth is the first step towards bettering one's situation. And since there's a lot of information available on the internet, there are a lot of books in the public libraries. There are a plethora of books on Amazon. I think that there are millions of books on Amazon. I think that we need to be accountable for what we know, but it's not about
Mhm.
just about what you know, and also about the educational accolades like what I have and what you have, Dr. Harris. It's about the implementation of what we know as well. And
But then how do I do that? So we've got some comments in the YouTube chat. You know, LLT is talking about, so do I wait until the community is better to invest, or do I invest and hope the community gets better?
you start by creating opportunities. You see, you start by creating opportunities, whether it's within your community or it's in another community. You see, but the thing about it is that our role is to ensure that our community is valuable to the point in which it will be profitable to invest within our community. There'll be incentives for us to work together and create and build. And also, it will be expensive for other people that don't look like us to try to capitalize on our community, meaning that we need to put pressure on
Mhm.
outsiders to ensure that it would not be within their best interest to try to invest within our community without our input and without our say so,
But
meaning that
our elected officials have given it away. Before we can get information on what's happening, it's
right.
already done.
Right, exactly. And that's one of the decencies of the book, you
Right.
see, which is why leaders, elected officials, and leaders have to organically come from the community. You see, and they have to get financed by the community, and there needs to be a program that comes from the community, and that candidate will have to follow the protocol of that community so that there won't be incentives for them to look elsewhere. And then if they were to deal with that pressure from whomever that may be, then the community will be able to deal with that pressure directly, because that candidate is in essence someone who has a fiduciary responsibility to work for us instead of the other way around.
So what would be the first step?
The first step of doing this would start with like-minded people connecting with one another, meeting with one another, and having productive conversations with one another. Thought, speech, and action would have to be towards economic advancement towards the Black community. That would have to be the number one priority: economic advancement towards the Black community, and also starting with a few people. If we look at the various social movements throughout the world and also various business movements, the Federal
Right.
Reserve was only founded by 8 people. It was a train ride. It was a train ride from Hoboken, New Jersey to Jekyll Island, Georgia, around where the Gullah Geechees are in 1908. And now is arguably the most powerful institution on the planet. If we were to look at the American Revolution, started with less than 10 people. The Cuban Revolution started with less than 10 people. If we were to look at the various phenomenons, the various social movements, whether we were to talk about a white movement, a Black movement, an Asian movement, they started with a few people. But it takes camaraderie, consistency, and a commonality of a code. And that code would have to be based on the economic advancement of the Black community. And like I said, economics is the utilization of time and energy, meaning that our time and energy will have to be dedicated towards the advancement of our people. And that is what economics is, true economics is. You see, because other ethnicities generally practice this. But the thing about it is that we need to think bigger than how they think. You see, it's not just about surviving under a system. No, we need to accumulate economic and political power on a global scale, meaning that it's not just about, oh, we need to come together. No, come together and do what? We've been here and come together for a long time. We were together on the slave ship, if you want to be technical, you see.
Right.
But the thing about it is that there needs to be a program where our time and energy will have to be dedicated towards the economic advancement of our community. You see, and if we're going to work with others, they will have to be based on terms and conditions that will benefit our community. If a developer wants to come into our community, then we need to own significant portions of these developments within our community. And also there needs to be a proposal showing how that's going to benefit the community. And if that's not going to benefit the community, then then we need to put pressure to ensure that these developers are not efficacious or successful with these developments within our community as well. And the same thing for the candidates.
So I have one final question, because
Yes,
I
sir.
want you to dive into something. Your last words in this book threw me for a loop, because it dovetailed everything that happens from the Federal Reserve through the federal government, through state government, county, city, and your local alderman or woman who decides we're going to build a development.
Right.
You said that choice, more than any individual project or policy, will define whether cities remain engines of shared prosperity or mechanisms for, and you said, managed exclusion.
Right.
Is that something that we've been fighting against
Exactly.
for decades?
We've been fighting against this for decades, which is why I say that ubiquitously we need to work towards a parallel economy. You know, ubiquitous to inclusion. We need to work towards a parallel economy so that we could develop leverage within this economic system. Because once we get the economic situation correct, then the political situation will fall into place, because it is the economics which dictates the politics.
Mm-hmm. All right. B. Libre Kafele, I'm telling you, who pays for development? So y'all thought I was kidding, I didn't have them. I got this one as well.
Wow, thanks a lot. I vehemently appreciate your support.
I am telling you, if you've got a smooth weekend, you've got nothing to do, if you have something to do, you need to make some time, take some time, go to Amazon and check out these books. They are phenomenal. They're eye-opening, and it gives you the intensity to understand just how fast we need to turn this around, because we are being taken advantage of. Thank you, yes. Author, speaker, B. Libre Kafele. I'm gonna talk to you again in a few months as we get closer to election time, maybe, and kind of get your thoughts on how cities can make sure candidates help them revitalize and build and grow. So.
Excellent, Dr. Harris. I'm looking forward to that. And also one question, is this recorded, meaning that will you have a recording of this episode?
It is recorded. It's on Facebook, it's on LinkedIn, and it is on YouTube. And I can download audio and video and make sure I send you a copy.
Thanks a lot. I vehemently appreciate it, Dr. Harris. I appreciate the invitation, and I appreciate you all for being here as well. And I'm looking forward to building with you all in the future. Outstanding. Thank you so very much. Appreciate you. Thank you. You all have a phenomenal one. All right, you too. Peace and blessings. And so that was it. And I don't know how else to say it. I believe that it was probably one of the most important pieces of information we should hear, and that we need to understand that moving forward, our collective work in certain areas are going to make the Black community outstanding and be the best that it is. So you're listening to Dr. Ken's Truth. When I come back, I'm going to check out the talk and text line. I'm going to check out the YouTube chat, all the things that's going on. I want to say thank you again to our guest, B. Libre Kafele, author of Who Pays for Development and Capital in the City. Gonna take a quick break. We'll be right back.
that's enough of that. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being here. Thanks for hanging out. No, we're not done yet. We're done yet. So let me check the comments on here. Want to say thank you for being here for Dr. Ken's Truth. Let me dive through these comments, see what y'all got to say on YouTube. Hey, want to remind you, just go to YouTube and make sure you click the notification bell and sign up and make sure you subscribe. So every time I'm on, you'll be on. Okay, so y'all were talking. Let me go back to the beginning. See who's up in here. So what's up, Kwanda? How's it going? Sincere Ronnie Ray Real. Essie is here. Lucretia. Todd, what's going on? Jasmine, hey, what's going on? Let's see. LT, what's up? How's it going? See who else is in here. Dude, I thought I saw Babar up in here. Babar, did I say there you are? You was late. You always late. You always be creeping. Kathleen, what's up? She said she'll have to go back. Kwanda had another question, part 2 of 2. Is, in your opinion, who has the greatest responsibility to ensure development? Is equitable government leaders, developers, financial institutions, or the community itself, and why? Well, first of all, the responsibility has to be on the political leaders who have the responsibility to build your city and pay for everything. So when you let development in, you have to ensure that the risk for that development, if it fails, falls on the developer, not on the community. Right? So you build out, you say you're going to build, the developer comes and says, I'm going to build X amount of, I'm going to take $3.5 million. I'm going to build out this thing. I'm going to tear it down and all that. You say, oh, that's great. Let's issue some bonds. Some municipal bonds, so we're going to build out the sidewalk and the sewer and all that, and you build all that out, and then you find out what? Oh, the project fell through. They couldn't get additional funding, so we're not going to do that. Meanwhile, the city has just spent like $10-15 million building out infrastructure. So what do you do? What do? You either have somebody else come in and pay for the infrastructure and pay for that, or you just eat it. Meanwhile, you've got municipal bonds that are out that taxpayers are paying for. And after they moved on and went to some other project and that's still sitting there, you're still paying those bonds. Taxpayers have to pay it. Meanwhile, inflation is going up. So I got to raise my taxes. So the landlord in the suburb who owns the building, you can't afford it because you're at the max. And now they raise your rent $200 a month and you can't do it. So you got to move out. And then somebody else moves in. That's why you're seeing this circular thing of more whites moving into the city of Milwaukee than blacks, and it's starting to build out and build out. And not that that's a bad thing. I'm not saying anything is good or bad. I'm not qualifying it with anything. But at some point, you got to do it. Financial institutions are there to make money. The community should be there to live responsibly and prosperously. But we can't because the city keeps doing this system because it's the only way they get a hold of money. At some point, somebody's got to break. You either got to throw out the politician and put in a politician that's going to do it the right way. Now, here's the problem with that. Democratic socialists are not going to do it. Democratic socialists don't understand. They just want to take from everybody and give to everybody so that we're all equal, and we're not, but for some reason. But that's another story as we get closer to elections. LT said invest in the community and make it better, or wait until the community gets better and invest. That was one of the questions I asked, chicken or the egg. It's really not chicken or the egg. You want a better community first so people will invest in it. Because if a community is better first, that means the people that live there can be safe and invest in it. Make sense? Okay. Laurent said, Todd, it doesn't take money to stop committing crimes or littering. 2 main factors is why people don't invest in areas of Milwaukee. We don't know that. I don't know. LT said, Babar does what I said, take money, because you were so quick to agree with Todd. Well, it takes common sense. LT is right. Todd said, I do agree. It seems like life, when things appear nice, is treated nice, and there's some people who you just can't reach. LT said, I agree. What he's saying about like-minded individuals coming together would also be true with educational systems. Todd said, I don't think there is ever a solution for people who don't care about themselves. Let me stop you there, Todd. Let me ask you not to do what everybody else does. And let me put it out there. This is not a race thing. This is a human being thing. Don't use your experience to make an assumption about someone else and say they're different, therefore I'm right. In other words, the assumption is that, oh, those people don't care about themselves. That's not true. In some instances, it might be true, but that's what you would think if it was you doing what they did. Let me give an example, and I've given this years ago. I was teaching a class at Concordia, and it was a business management class, introduction to management. And one of the questions that came up is one of the kids, well, why don't Black people, because we had some open conversations. We have some clear conversations in a Christian environment. So we have some open conversations, be respectful, all that stuff. And one of them said, why don't Black people care about education? I said, what do you mean? Well, the absentee rates and the grades and all that, they just don't care. And I asked, what makes you say that? How do you take the only reason why you wouldn't go to school or get bad grades or show up late is because you don't care? That's your assumption. He goes, well, yeah, it's what it is. I said, no, it's not. That's yours. If you didn't go to school and if you got bad grades, it would be because you didn't care. The problem is you can't transfer your values to other people. The bottom line is that kid was late 10 minutes every day because mama was working, regardless of what happened in the past, whether she had a baby married, not married, divorced, widowed. She's struggling regarding time. She's got the money, she's got the job, but she's struggling on time. So she works overnights. Dad is working overnights. We got, during the day, they got everything together. And just because it just so happens she can't get off work on time every day, if some days she might be about 10 minutes late. So the kiddo gets to school at 8:40 instead of 8:30. Do you keep zinging the kid late, or do you make an exception for someone whose life circumstances just are what they are? You never know. But what we can't do is transfer how we feel and how we think they should. Oh, they just don't care. That's not true. It's not true at all. There are situations and circumstances that cause us and force us to do things that we don't want to do. Kwanda said, let me finish. How can they care about their surroundings? It has to start at a young age. Without guidance, you have nothing. To a point. There are myriad examples of that are to the opposite. That it didn't start at a young age and that they didn't have guidance, but they still had the internal mechanism it took to do good, because we all do. And so when you've heard things so much, which is a form that we all have, a form of implicit bias, when we keep hearing the things that we hear, we automatically go to what we know. That's not a negative. That's just what it is. Kwanda said, Dr. Ken to order the book and not the ebook. That's powerful. I'm in my Tori Lovo's voice. Anyway, Sincere said, phenomenal. Kwanda pops up live up next. Hey, what's up, Sir Chance? Todd said, it's across the board. I didn't bring race into it. Well, I'm bringing race into it because it's my neighborhood. If you don't want to bring race into it, that's okay. I'm okay. But the cool thing about it is you should be able to bring race into something and it not cause you to get mad at somebody because they see something from a certain point of view.
Number 5.
Summerfest. It's continuing. It's going on. It's here. Remains the biggest entertainment event this week. Thousands of people attending. I see people all over Sherman Park in these Airbnb houses coming and going and coming and going. You can always tell them because they're usually white and they look scared. They give you the look. All right. They're always scared. But I'm just teasing. Organizers report strong attendance at the festival moves into another weekend of concerts and community events. I think now I've heard like everything.
Number 4.
From CBS 58. In high school gyms across Wisconsin this winter, a number of teams will have to pick up the pace. The WIAA, the Wisconsin Interscholastic Athletic Association, voted yesterday to implement a 35-second shot clock during a limited number of games. The new policy allows for the use of a shot clock in varsity non-conference games as long as both teams agree to have the clock in place. The WIA is fully considering implementation of the clock statewide for 28-29. That's set to come up for vote at the next annual meeting next April. Whitnall High School, yesterday, girls varsity head coach Anthony Parr put a camp of elementary age students through dribbling drills at the school, and he said he welcomes a shot clock. Can you imagine how fast the game will be? Well, first of all, the game is only an hour. It's only an hour, right? So it's really not going to be an hour. It'll be like 40 minutes because it's going to go so fast. Usually a basketball game takes, about 2 hours or so? Can you imagine? Okay, I was fine doing my top 5 at 5, but LT committed a no-no, so I'm going to have to block LT from ever being on my YouTube channel again. You know what you said, LT. Oh my goodness. He put that woman. Let me block. Is there a way to block LT? No, I'm just pretending a boomer moment. Is there a way to block LT? There's absolutely no way. Keep it up, dude. Keep it up. Keep it up.
Number 3.
Black churches expand spend in the Black campaign. Black Enterprise is reporting that churches across the country are encouraging congregants to intentionally support Black-owned businesses as a strategy for community wealth creation and local economic development. Something we were talking about today, something that we need to do today. And speaking of Black, we'll see how you do.
Number 2.
Black Enterprise also highlights the expansion of the 2026 Black Census Project that aims to survey, listen to this close, hundreds of thousands of Black Americans on economic opportunity, healthcare, education, and civic participation. If you get a chance, sign up. We talk trash. We think we're not being represented. Then when representatives from the government and nonprofits come around to want to do a survey, preferably that's not political, what do? We say no. Then we complain that we had no participation. I don't understand that. All you got to do is participate. By the way, the Barack Obama Presidential Center, it's not a library, it's a center, opened. And one of the things you have to be aware of is that when you sign up, they have your phone number. They start sending out these fake, hey, you want to get some tickets and see if there are tickets available? Take this survey. And then midway through the survey, it turned all the way political. Do you like what Trump is doing? Do you like what so-and-so is doing? What about Evers? And I went, what is this? I said, no, it's spam. So if anybody texts you anything, make sure it comes directly from the presidential library, because people are spamming people to get information, to get access, and you know how that goes. Now, I know that might be a little contrary to what I just talked about, but usually when you get surveys, they come from reputable places. We've got some pretty reputable healthcare places around town. We've got some reputable firms and universities around town: Concordia, Marquette, UWM, Carthage, Carroll. We've got some reputable universities around that can, Mount Mary, Alverno, that can give you information on surveys because you've known people that went to school there. When they come with a survey, sign up. Don't take the text like they tried to get me to do. And then all of a sudden, it's not what they say it is. And I'm diving back into women for this one. Is this a new crime mainly committed by women?
Number 1.
So From JS Online, the Wisconsin Department of Justice has filed criminal charges against two women, one from Milwaukee for allegedly defrauding Wisconsin's Medicaid system. Zambia Bell, 48 of Milwaukee, faces not one, not two, but 10 counts of medical assistance fraud and one count of theft by fraud. A second woman, Carolyn Franco, 45 of Pueblo, Colorado, was charged with 3 counts of medical assistance fraud and 1 count of theft by fraud. The charges against Franco and Bell were filed in circuit court in Madison on June 18th and June 23rd, which is a couple of days ago. That's according to online court records. This from JS Online. According to the criminal complaints, both women, they were personal care workers for people they knew through Medicaid's Include, Respect, and Self-Direct, the IRIS program. Both criminal complaints allege the women fraudulently filled out time cards for the IRIS program, stating they worked hours they didn't. The criminal complaint against Bell alleges she submitted time cards that showed her working more than 24 hours in a single 24-hour period on 437 different occasions, resulting in excess pay to Bell from Wisconsin Medicaid in the neighborhood of $43,000. The complaint further alleges that if Bell actually only worked 16 hours per day, then she fraudulently received $100,447 from Wisconsin Medicaid. And the complaint against Franco says she submitted time cards on days she was in a different state, defrauded Wisconsin of $16,000. So these are cases we need to start looking at. But I'm starting to notice, kind of like women. You know what I'm saying? Like women are the ones that are taking advantage of people and stealing, especially with childcare, healthcare, medical assistance. I'm just wondering. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. You know, LT, you better get out of here. You better leave because you say her name in here one more time, and it's gonna be on. It's gonna be on. And so I want to say thank you for being here. I hope the book helped. I hope it gave you some information that you could use and take away and really use. 68 degrees. High today was 76. The low tonight is going to be 55. 8:35 is the sunset for today. I will be back on Monday. Ding, ding, ding. Guess what's happening on Monday? Well, Monday, I'm going to be talking about a special thing that happened with our friend called the governor, if that's what he wants to call himself. The governor and some things that he turned away that kind of drove me crazy. But also, my guest on Monday, Mr. Sherwin Hughes. So he'll be here at 4 o'clock. That's Sherwin Hughes, 4 o'clock. On Thursday, Dame Elsie will be here with us at 4. So make sure you listen up next week. Tell everybody we're going to be hanging out, chopping it up, talking, seeing what's going on, and just moving forward. Want to say thanks for being here. God bless. Take care. Have a safe weekend. That means keep your head down and don't get in trouble.
Quiet.
And also shut up. Be quiet. All right? Pick your head. Okay. Deuces. I'm out.